So welcome today. I wanted to just say hello. This is Jenisys Walters with Jenisys Speaks podcast, as well as Jenisys Solutions type 2 diabetes. And I just wanted to introduce my guest today, Trey Rentie, who is going to be talking to us about a different kind of lifestyle that maybe some of us may have been thinking about, maybe have already kind of crossed over and are actually living that life. But Trey became a vegan. And so we're going to be talking about his transition from what he used to be to what he is now. And how I got in touch with Trey, I saw Trey's food online and I just absolutely fell in love with his preparation, with his music, with the ambience, with the whole thing. And so it actually started me thinking about transitioning to be a vegan. I mean, I've been thinking about going plant-based, but not all the way vegan. I've been thinking maybe about going vegetarian, but his food is really seriously making me think about going vegan all the way. So we're going to talk to him today and get a kind of a lowdown on his journey to where he is today and what he did and how he did it, and some of his tips and tricks about how he prepares his food. And maybe he'll talk about one of his recipes later on in the show. So, hi, Trey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So maybe you can turn up your sound just a little bit. I think I'm having a little bit of hard time hearing you just a little bit. Can you turn that up a little bit?
Can you hear me better?
That's better. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
So Trey, I want you to kind of tell my audience a little bit about you and what you do, what your lifestyle is now today, and then we're going to go backwards. We're going to kind of talk about how you grew up, the kinds of foods you used to eat, and what made you change? What made you transition into the lifestyle that you have now? So I'm going to let you take the floor.
Okay, so I live in Southern California, worked as a driver, and you said the way that I used to eat?
Well, yeah, so you're a truck driver now, but you grew up in California. You never lived anywhere in another state. So you live in California, you've lived and grown up in California. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up, what kinds of foods did you used to eat, what was your favorite go-to things, that kind of stuff back then.
Okay, so I'm born and raised in California. I kind of moved around a bit. Served the military for 3 years in San Diego, and I grew up in Bakersfield, California. So the food that I used to eat, I mean, my mom used to cook us like, tacos and fried pork chops and like just all that good greasy soul food and canned veggies with all the butter and salt in it. And just, I mean, really good, but very unhealthy growing up for sure. And into my adult life, the convenience of fast food and just restaurant eating, because the restaurant scene it's really picked up and everybody likes to go out to eat, and pretty much that was me. So I would always be eating like Korean barbecue and chicken strips. That was my go-to for sure. So eating out a lot, going to Popeyes, going to KFC, pretty much anywhere you can find chicken. And yeah, just not really eating much at home, not really cooking a lot of food. If I did, it was really basic. It was like, chicken. Luckily, I did have a George Foreman, so I would, make some grilled chicken, rice, corn, just really basic stuff like that. Nothing like what I do today.
So what I'm gathering is that you love chicken, obviously.
I used to love chicken.
You used to love chicken. So now you are doing something else. But you also told me a little bit about your life before you even got into this lifestyle, how you started off and you were kind of homeless for a little while. Did you care to share any of that information with my audience?
Sure. Yeah. So, and then there was a time where it was back in like about 2014 where I didn't really want to be, I was kind of going through like a little hippie phase or whatever, and I didn't really want to be like confined into a space. So I decided to move into my car. And it was actually it was a 2-door car at the time. So, but mind you, I was in the military. I slept in a really small space, so I was already used to that.
Okay.
And the goal was basically to buy a van and like convert it into an RV and everything, but that kind of didn't work out. So yeah, so in the midst of living in my car on and off for 4 years, kind of had a hard time financially maintaining my income. So I had to, and also too, without having a kitchen, I had to really rely on going to grocery stores and buying food
Mm,
there. So like, they had those like prepared soups or something like that, or like if you go,
yes.
I don't know if you guys have a food for less where you are, but they have like prepared chicken strips and like
Yep.
potato wedges into like a little container, and you can buy for like $3.
Yeah.
I would get that, or like I had a food stamp card. I would go to like Fresh and Easy and basically just buy all this prepared food. Um, and I would also eat it out a lot, of course. So I would go to Popeyes and all these different fast food
Fast food.
places, McDonald's, Arby's, and just basically just for that on and off 4 years, or for that entire 4 years, I was just eating really unhealthy to the point to where my energy was chronically low, like it was super
Mm,
low. Basically, I got really bad bloating, and then of course I had like a little beer belly and everything because of just all the eating. It just went straight to my stomach, and
wow.
even when I got even when I got a little stable and I moved into a place and everything, and began to take better care of myself in terms of like food and shelter. I mean, I still and finances. I was still had those habits of going out to eat. And I used to work
Gotcha.
at Pizza Hut, so I would eat so much pizza from work because there was a lot of opportunities to get free food,
To get, yeah.
uh, for sure. So I
So that
carried on
didn't
those
really
habits.
help then. It didn't really help then that you had all these well, really had good access to bad food pretty much
Hmm.
because of your lifestyle. So you had no choices really, not real choices in terms of healthier food because of your
Right,
lifestyle at the time and because of what was available, right? Would I be correct in
right,
saying that?
for sure.
So let me ask you a little bit. Well, the reason I'm curious about your lifestyle is because I was a counselor before I got into what I'm doing now, and then before I got into management and then technical training. Um, I'm just always curious to know why people choose, because I think this was a choice that you made to live in your car. Maybe was it to save money? Was it because you just wanted to just live off the land and just not, what was your thinking behind that whole move?
It was definitely just like having a sense of freedom, and I don't know if it's because I
Gotcha.
was used to being in the military and being away all the time
Uh,
because my ship was always out to sea and everything, so I was just kind
yep,
of used to being out. But yeah, it
yep.
was it was it was very freeing. Yeah, I was basically able to do whatever I wanted because I didn't have to spend my money on, one of the biggest expenses we all have, which is rent. So I was able to pretty much do what I want every day. I was going to the beach every day, taking walks. I was like,
Wow.
I was spending more time outside for sure. And just, it felt more clear minded in a way, I guess, if
Yeah,
that
it
makes sense.
sounds like a very interesting way to kind of find yourself and just experience being out and not encumbered with bills and rent
Right,
and
for
water
sure.
bills and gas bills and
And
all that
everything
other
bills.
stuff. Yeah. It just sounds like, you know what, that might not be a bad thing to try once in your life, right? So let's just kind of move on from there. So when you decided to come back indoors, how did that happen? What happened when you decided to come back indoors, and how did your eating change when that did happen?
Oh, I think one day I was just like, because the van thing wasn't really working out. I bought a
Mhm.
van that I wanted to convert, and then like when I took the seats out, like there were like roaches in it, and I was like, you know
Uh,
what, maybe.
maybe
And it
this
was
is
kind
not
of
the
during,
way.
yeah, I was like, maybe I'm just not really into this anymore, like I thought I was. I ironically, this is around the time where actually the van life got a lot more popular, and people started like doing this, like they sold their houses, got rid of all their stuff,
Yeah.
got a van and like traveled the world with it or whatever. So, but yeah,
Wow.
that time I think after a few years, I was like, well, I've been doing this and it's not really working out. So maybe I should just like, I just literally just woke up one day and was like, oh, I think I'm over this. So,
So you were done. You were just pretty much done at that
right,
point.
right. So I
All
removed
right.
myself from that situation
Uh-huh.
and, got moved into a place.
Gotcha. So then how did your eating change then? What did you stop going to fast food, or was it something that prompted you to change your eating? What made you change from what you were eating then to when you came back inside?
Okay.
What made you change from there? How did that happen?
So I was working at a local pizza restaurant, which I still love today, one of my
Yeah.
favorite jobs. And I started there as a driver, actually, a delivery driver. and I
Okay.
cross trained into a prep cook because I was kind of looking back there at what they were doing. I was like, you know what? I think I want to be in the kitchen.
Mm,
At the same time, I'm still going through having low energy, bloating. Like every time I ate food, I had to take like an 8 hour nap because I was so tired and
hired.
like exhausted for like just my energy was low.
Wow.
But I started to, so I became a prep cook working with them. And then eventually I got tendonitis in both my wrists. And the pain was so bad that like it would hurt to even, I couldn't even unplug my charger from my phone. It was so sharp.
Wow.
And I ended up having to get I ended up having to get cortisone shots in both my wrists. So,
Tell us
and the
about
pain
that.
was,
What was that like?
it's not, I mean, if you're okay with shots, it's not bad. They just
No.
basically shoot some cortisone into your and your wherever you're having problems with these with a little needle.
Oh, it's a little
But it was
needle.
weird. Excuse me. Oh yeah,
You said it's a little needle.
yes, it is. It's not anything crazy like that. But
Okay.
yeah, and it takes a while. Like basically, they kind of just like rub it into your hand a little bit, and then it kind of basically, I would say like it. I don't want to say it numbs the area, but it pretty much like that's kind of what it's doing. So it's just kind of making it to where it's manageable, so you can kind of be comfortable day to day
Do
and not go through
things.
the pain. Yeah. So,
Gotcha.
but I think I was still having issues, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go vegetarian for 30 days. And so, because at this time I was following Tabitha Brown. So I had, okay,
Yes.
so let me circle back a little bit. So
Yeah.
I had a friend, I have a friend on my Facebook page that I met at a conference. Um, and we were talking and she would, you know, basically she was vegan and we basically connected after the conference and like she's been like showing her food on and off. And I'm like, wow, this is really good. So actually she's the first person who introduced me to like veganism and vegan
Ah,
food. And then but it took a long time. Like I was looking like following her food for a minute before, and I was like, you know what, I want to do that, but for some reason I still wasn't pushed to do it.
mhm.
And then I started following Tabitha Brown, and she was like, the way she eats her food, I'm like, man, she makes a tomato look like it's the best thing on the planet. So I'm like, okay, maybe I could, you know, do this after
Try
following
it.
her a little bit. And this is when she was still kind of coming up. Now she's like super famous. And
Hmm.
so now circle back to me being at work and having a hard time with my hands. And I'm like, I'm really passionate in cooking. I want to grow my, you know, career in the food industry. Like I need my hands. So like let me put myself on, you know, just a 30-day vegetarian challenge. Because Tabitha Brown said she put herself on like a 30-day vegan challenge. So I was
Wow.
like, you know what? I'm just gonna start with 30 days. After a week, the pain in my left wrist totally disappeared like it never happened.
You're kidding. After 1 week.
1 week. Because I
Good
still, even with the
grief.
cortisone shots, I was still having issues, especially in my right, like both hands, but also my right hand too. So
Gotcha.
totally disappeared in my left hand. The pain was low, like I still had issues with my right wrist, but it was manageable. And then yeah, after 30 days, I was like, you know what, I could keep doing this.
Wow. So what about the bloating? What happened with the bloating? What happened with the tiredness, the fatigue? Was that gone too, or did that take some time?
uh, the energy was definitely better, but
Okay.
I still had a lot of bloating because you know you actually a lot of veggies cause bloating too, so that wasn't something that was easy for me to
Okay.
get rid of.
So then did you learn later that certain veggies you might need to eat less of, and that even now becoming a vegan, that you had to eat less of those and more of something else? Did you kind of learn that over the process of time, or how did you
Um,
arrive at, or did you do research? I mean, how did you know what to eat and what not to eat?
Honestly, I just kind of learned as I went. So when I went vegetarian, I just I just did it, and I got rid of all of my anything with meat in it. I got rid of it right away. I gave some stuff away because I had like some frozen meat in the freezer. And
Uh-huh.
I just started kind of like, okay, what, you know, what do I eat as a vegetarian? What do vegans eat? I started making like tofu scramble, started eating more veggies, and then I kind of learned just I just focused on learning how to eat as a vegetarian and not really overly focusing on trying to be like a healthy vegetarian, if that makes sense.
So
Just to,
let's talk about that real quick, not to cut you off, because we talked about veganism, but you went vegetarian first.
first.
So let's talk about that process, because you said it took a while for you to kind of get over into veganism. So you started off being a vegetarian. So tell us about that transition, and then the switch from that. What happened when you decided, you know what, I'm going all the way? What happened then? So let's talk about that process. So you started by throwing out all the meat products. You gave stuff away. You decided after your cortisone shots and the fact that you had, that pain go away in your wrists, that this is probably something I need to kind of consider to continue. So let's talk about your vegetarianism phase then at this point.
Yeah, so I was basically just kind of learning like the vegan staples. So I learned about tofu. I learned about how to basically manipulate tofu to make it taste, different depending on how you want it. So I learned about it as an egg substitute. Because actually, when I went vegetarian, I was still eating eggs, but I actually lost the taste for eggs. So like one day, I realized that my taste buds were changing, and one day I was just like, oh, these eggs don't really taste as good as they used to taste. And so I started eating tofu scramble instead. I learned about nutritional yeast as like a good supplement for B12, and like basically you can use it kind of like as a cheesy flavor.
Wow.
So I learned about that, and then just learning about the small substitutes. So instead of me eating mayo, I can buy vegan mayo. Instead of butter, now I have vegan butter. So just learning basic stuff like switching out basic ingredients that I've already used, learning how to substitute certain things like eggs, like I mentioned before, and also learning how to read ingredients. So watching out for gelatin.
So gelatin is not
that's
good.
a big one. Yes, that's an animal product. So you don't want to use. You don't want
Gelatin is
to.
an animal product. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yes.
I'm going to turn my phone off because I don't want it to. I just heard it just now, and I don't want it to go off while we're talking. So I'm going to put it on silent. Okay, so tell me about how long it took for you to notice the changes in your tasting changing. When you went vegetarian, you said you noticed that your taste changed. How long did it take for you to then notice that doesn't taste so good anymore, and that doesn't taste so good anymore?
You know what? I think probably around the first month, because I was still eating. Again, I was still eating eggs, and then one day I was like, "Oh, I don't really enjoy eating eggs anymore." I think that was in probably the first 30 days, and then I just noticed that like things that I used to eat, I felt like now that I was vegetarian, they just taste a lot more, like a lot richer. So like if I bite in, like if I eat a tomato, like now I could really taste the tomato and taste like the juiciness of the tomato versus before. I don't, for whatever reason, I didn't enjoy it as much. And now it's like, oh, I appreciate this tomato. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just something that like, it's so weird to explain, but yeah, it's just a different experience actually.
So what I'm getting from that is that it sounds like you could actually learn to like the change in food, even if you're giving up the things that you used to love before. With your taste buds changing and your palate changing, you could actually learn to like the things that maybe other people thinking vegetables, not for me. You can learn to appreciate those things and learn to love those things. And I think that's interesting, because with change, a lot of people don't like change because they figure what they're changing to is not as good as what they're leaving behind. So that is an incentive, I would think, to at least try. Because if you can learn to love something that you never, and I can attest to that, because I'm a person that used to hate salads, didn't like them, wouldn't eat them. Why?
Same.
Rabbit food, lettuce, rabbit food. I wasn't eating no salads. And if I was going to eat a salad, I'd have to have some stuff in there that I liked. And that's how, but guess what? Because of that, and I wanted to change my lifestyle, I wanted to get healthier, I decided to do some experimenting with creating things with salads, putting things in there that I like doing some pecans in there, or doing some dried cranberries and chopping that up, or doing some dates and chopping that up. And I started to experiment, and I was like, oh, okay, I think I can get into this. And so now, guess what? Salads are now my signature thing.
Right.
Who knew? Right.
That's a good point because yeah, that's a really good point to make because before I went vegetarian, I barely ate veggies. Like I didn't care for the taste, but mind you, okay, I'm going to bring up something that's really important too because
Yeah.
like I didn't eat asparagus. I didn't really. I mean, I ate broccoli, but if I bought it out, I didn't really cook a lot of veggies, and I think that I didn't think that I liked veggies because I wasn't really seasoning the veggies like I season meat. So yeah, I didn't really have a taste for a lot of vegetables. I didn't think that I liked them very much. But then when I went vegetarian and I learned how to season, asparagus, and I learned how to roast my veggies, and I started to do different techniques and like basically treat my veggies like I used to, season and flavor the meat that I ate before. It just became
Ah,
a totally different experience. And then also with the taste bud changes, it really makes a huge difference.
huh. So seasoning, that's a point that I think I'm beginning to learn as I move from, regular meat and move into more plant-based, that
Mhm.
you don't have to have plain vegetables. Usually what they say is
Exactly.
steamed vegetables, right? And so
Exactly.
when you have a bowl of steamed vegetables, it's not tasty and it's not fun or joyful to eat. So just the fact that you can actually step outside the box of what we think we're supposed to do to
Mhm.
prepare it and put some seasoning on it, that maybe opens up a few more palates for people to say, you know what, let me try some seasoning on this stuff. So much better.
Yeah.
So much better. So that's a good point that you brought up, that people can kind of think, well, it doesn't have to be so totally
It doesn't
different
have to be
in
bland.
taste. You can just season it better and it may open you up a little bit more. So that's a good point. So then from the transition from the vegetarianism to veganism, what happened there? What changed?
So I was vegetarian for 7 months.
7 months,
And
okay.
in that process, I was learning more about the factory farming and basically the abuse that animals go through in that process to like create, food and clothing for us. And I already knew about some of it before, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't that in that time it wasn't convincing enough for me to change my diet, and which was kind of sad to say now, but but
Uh-huh.
yeah, this at this time, it was the right time for me to gain that education because I was already going through the diet change for my health. And so once I learned about just dairy and basically again the factory farming and all the abuse that the animals go through, I was like, you know what, I really don't want to be a part of that. And it took one documentary. So it was a documentary
Wow.
called Earthlings.
What was it
It's
called?
free, Earthlings, and it's free to watch on YouTube. But I want to caution people that like, watch it when you're ready to watch it because it's very graphic. Like
Mm,
you can't watch it and not think about the food that you're eating afterwards. For sure, you know what I mean.
wow.
So so yeah, I watched that and immediately went in my kitchen and went through all the ingredients and anything that had milk, dairy, eggs, anything that had casein, whey. Um, I tossed it.
Wow. Just like that.
Yeah, I think because I think my personality is more kind of like an all or nothing type of thing. Like if I can't like the transition thing, I know some people do better when like maybe they eliminate,
A couple
uh,
things.
red meat one year, chicken the next year, and then they work on dairy. I have to just do it.
Wow.
Yeah, because the way that I ate meat, like, it's addicting. So the way that I ate meat, dairy, and stuff like that, I went to for some reason, I don't know moderation especially when I really like something, I just go all in
You just
with it.
go
So
all
I had
full
to just,
hog, huh?
yeah, so I had to just toss everything. So yeah, I went to my kitchen, tossed everything, and I've been vegan since. I have made some mistakes, like I've ordered coffee from Starbucks and forgot to tell them to put oat milk in it and like little stuff like that, but not so I haven't purposely
Done
consumed
it.
any dairy. Yeah.
But since you said that, let me ask you this question. So now that you're kind of vegan, when you've made those kinds of, little mistakes, has that made a difference in how your stomach is or how you feel? Do you know when you've made those mistakes, or you discover it as hearing what they put in it later, maybe? I mean, does it make a difference in how you feel? For instance, if you go back to old habits, sometimes it's kind of familiar and your body is kind of familiar with that. So has that happened for you?
I think so. Something like a coffee, it doesn't bother me because
Okay.
I think it's probably because I'm not making that mistake often. But I
Hmm.
have, so when I quit dairy, I actually realized that one thing that I had going on with me was a symptom of a milk allergy. So every morning, my eyes used to itch and burn, and I never knew why. It happened for years, and I would have to wake up and like wash my eyes out because they would burn so bad that I wouldn't be able to like see until I, took a towel of water and like wiped my face. And after I
So
quit
what caused
dairy,
that? What did you say caused that?
it was dairy. So after I quit dairy, it stopped. Literally, like again, at the first like week, it's crazy because once you quit the stuff, it takes a week for your some of
Body.
these things to kind of reverse. So like yeah, it took
Wow.
maybe like a few days to a week, and I realized that that wasn't happening anymore. And then when I googled like milk allergy symptoms, itchy eyes turned or itching burning eyes turned out to be one of those. And I'm like, you mean to tell me I've been going through this for years and it's because of dairy?
Oh my gosh.
So there's a lot of things that people could be going through that they don't realize is because of their dairy consumption. So it could be acne, um, and all types of other things, basically.
You've got me thinking because I have itchy eyes in the morning and I have to wash my eyes out. And sometimes I think it's because of, when I used to wear eye makeup and stuff, I don't wear a lot of eye makeup now because of the
Hmm.
fact that, or eyeliner, I wear shadow, but I don't wear a lot of eyeliner because
Okay.
I have to, because of the diabetes, I have to have injections in my eyes every 8 to 10 weeks as a preventive measure.
Oh man. Okay.
So this is why I do what I do, so I can let people know that you don't want to go down the road I went down. You really don't.
Right.
Nobody wants to have injections in their eyes every 4 to 10 weeks or 8 to 10 weeks. Nobody wants that. My first few times of having that done, I was a basket case. I was holding on to the chair. I was nervous.
Oh
I mean, they numb
no.
you up. They numb you up. But the bottom line is you see this needle coming towards your eye and you know it's going in your
For
eye.
sure. That's traumatic.
Who wants that, right? Who asks for that voluntarily? Nobody. So I just want people to know that I almost lost a leg to this disease. I almost lost an eye to this disease. I had a detached retina and it was all sugar related. And so for me,
Wow.
it's real. For me, it hits home that this is something I had to do. I had no choice in the matter. Um, and I had to do something because I was not about to lose my leg. I was not about to lose my eyesight or go blind, and I'm not about to have kidney failure. It ain't happening, right?
Right.
So for me, this is real. And for you, when you saw that documentary, and for you when you had those issues with your stomach and your bloating and the pain in your wrists, I mean, that was real for you. And all it took was that one documentary, and you just said, that's
I'm
it, I'm
done.
done, this is over. So people need to know that we do have choices. We are in control of the direction of our lives in terms of our health. And we
Yes.
can change that record. We can change that mindset. We can change those habits, especially if you want to live a healthier life, especially if you want to feel better. Just the fact that you had itchy eyes and I'm experiencing the same thing. However, the thing is, I do almond milk and have been for years, but I do a lot of cheese and it has dairy in it, obviously.
Hmm.
So maybe that's where it's coming from. So now I'm thinking
The
maybe
cheese
I
will get
need to
you.
really give up cheese. My favorite thing to eat, I might have to give it up. So I'm going to do some research and I'm going to actually try maybe a little challenge for myself in terms of cutting out the dairy for a little bit and cutting out the cheese and seeing how I feel in response to that. But
I
continue.
would say
I'm
to
just so intrigued with your story.
Mhm. I would say to try it for a week or two and
Uh-huh.
just see how your body reacts to it. Because yeah, when I realized it was something I wanted to say about the itchy. Oh, okay. So whenever I do, like I've had some type of, I used to work at a kitchen, and I
Mm-hmm.
was eating the pasta, and then after I ate the pasta that night, my eyes started to itch and burn. So I was like, oh, maybe the pasta
Mm,
has dairy in it. So I begin to realize if I do have a like if I have a reaction to anything, it'll be my eyes. And
yeah.
that'll be a good indicator to tell me that maybe I ate a lot of like dairy somehow that I, that I didn't
Wow.
know. But I try to be careful with that for sure.
So let me ask you this then. So do you know if you have any known allergies then from foods?
I don't know, but I am
But you're
working.
sensitive to certain things.
Oh my, I'm so sensitive. My skin is sensitive. I have a really weird kind of like heat intolerance right now that I don't know
Mm,
because there's no rash. There's no like physical evidence of it. It's like internal. So I don't know if it's a food allergy or what it is, but I'm in the process of like going to a dermatologist and getting. I'm going to get a food allergy test for sure to see if
gotcha.
there's any other food
Gotcha.
sensitivities. But the
Gotcha.
dairy
So
for sure made me
is
realize
one.
I had one. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So let me ask you this. Since you became a vegetarian, no, not vegetarian, vegan, let me ask you about holistic methods of treatment. Because when you have all these illnesses that we are usually just given a pill or some medicine to fix it, right? Or to feel better. Whereas that may not solve the issue. It may just kind of put a plaster on the issue, but it doesn't really fix the issue. Where are you on the scale, from holistic medicine to, typical medicine in terms of treating our food allergies or our illnesses or whatever we have in terms of our health? How do you feel about?
Well, I definitely I don't know a lot about holistic medicine and everything. I think the most that I've done is like I've done a detox. So I know my doctor wanted to put me
Okay.
on, medication for for high cholesterol because I've always had high cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
And then my food habits were so poor that it went all the way up to 297, which 300 is borderline high. Like that's really, really
Wow.
high cholesterol, especially for like I'm, in my 30s. So that's pretty,
Yeah.
pretty high for someone that age. And so I actually went plant-based partially because of that as well. And I actually
Mm-hmm.
got it down to a 225 within a
Wow.
year.
Okay.
Um, because I did not want to, do any medication. I just told my doctor, like, I'll just try to, do a diet change. Still took me a while after that.
But
And then
still,
right. And then I kind of, the most I've done after that is I did a 2-week detox by Dr. Bobby Price.
okay.
And that actually helped with the bloating a lot. That actually cured the bloating for sure. Because it still was going, even after almost 2 years, I still had really bad bloating.
Wow.
Um, but I pretty much like I want to get into taking like vegan supplements like B12. Want to get more into sea moss. I bought sea moss before, but I just did not like blending. I didn't like putting it in my
Yeah.
blender at all. So I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna probably just buy like someone who made the gel already. So little stuff like that. So I'm in the process of learning more of that. Mostly, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm, cooking my meals from scratch, limiting my processed vegan foods because if you go, you go vegan for health, but then you consume a lot of these processed, like vegan meats and everything, then it's not really helping. You're kind of just
Uh,
exchanging one unhealthy thing for another. So I
is that
try,
right?
right. So I try, like, I'll try things here and there, but I try to like, I know certain things that I'm going to buy. So I'm going to buy impossible meat. I'm going to buy soy riso. I'm going to buy tofu, but I try not to regularly buy anything like too much of anything beyond that.
Gotcha. So when you say like, so I do Beyond Meat, which I kind of like. I think it's the closest thing I've had to beef, right?
Mhm.
So I do Beyond Meat, but you said the Impossible meat is also good. One from time to time, not on a regular basis, but from time to time.
Yeah, I would say, with moderation, if you're not trying to be like, perfect. Like I'm trying to do like more of an 80-20 situation where like I'm 80% healthy and 20% a little bit of junk here and there because I do like to go out to eat and experience new vegan restaurants and vegan options from other places. And I like the processed meat, but I do want to work towards lowering that and incorporating more raw vegan meals into
Gotcha.
my diet.
So let me ask you that question then. So are you doing more raw food than you are anything else? Are you moving more towards raw food or just plant based, basically, that you can cook as well?
Kind of both. So I wanted to do more raw, but of course my brand online is like, it's just like regular like cooked vegan food. So
Yeah.
I try to do like I'll do like one meal, like one cooked meal, and then I'll try to do like, incorporate a big salad. And then I'm starting to eat more fresh fruit. So I buy a lot of apples. I didn't realize apples were so good. until I went vegan. So
Tell
some
us
of my
about that.
favorite.
What do you use? What do you use apples in? You know, that we don't typically use apples in then.
Oh, I just eat them. I
Oh,
started
you
to,
just
because
like apples.
yeah, like I just started getting more into apples. Like I used to be all about the green, like Granny Smith apples. And I really didn't care for red apples much. And then I was like, you know what? Let me explore a little bit. So I started getting like pink lady apples. I started to
Love
get
those.
the honey crisp apples. I'm like, these things taste like Jolly Ranchers to me. Like they taste like candy. Because of course I've never really been too big on candy or sweets. So those are kind of like really satisfying in terms of trying to get that type of fix. But yeah, I'm
Gotcha.
all about the Honeycrisp apples right now, and I eat
Gotcha.
a lot of bananas because they're easy to carry with you. Grapefruit, oranges, stuff like that.
Gotcha. So do you feel that you've gotten, well, you feel healthier, you feel better. Have you incorporated anything else with your lifestyle change in terms of maybe more exercising or something more walking? Have you incorporated any of those things, or has it just been strictly the changes in food and how you prepare it?
It's been strictly food, but I do need to make the time for sure to make sure that I'm walking and everything, and so that's more
Hmm.
of a priority this year. But there was, because I used to work out a lot, but then
Okay.
my diet was terrible. So I was like, I wasn't really seeing, what I
The
wanted to see in the
changes.
gym because my food was so bad. Like I was gaining muscle, but then I also had a, big stomach, like I told you
Mm,
before, because of the unhealthy eating, and like
yeah.
basically my weight and my body was kind of all over the place. So I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to work out anymore. I'm just going to focus on my food. So
Gotcha.
now that my food is together, I feel more comfortable with incorporating, exercise.
Gotcha. So let's talk about meal preparation and how you prepare your vegan meals, right? So you got the passion when you said you started working at this pizza place and you kind of liked the fact that you kind of noticed the fact that you wanted to be in the preparation of it and kind of work in the kitchen. Where do you
Mhm.
think that passion came from for cooking and knowing, because I'm sure it obviously translates into what I've seen online with your food and how you prepare it. You love doing what you do. It shows. It's so obvious and you're so good at it. But where did that passion really ignite? Where did that come from?
You know what? If if you let me tell it, it came out of nowhere. But when I think back when I was a kid, my mom used to cook. I used to actually make all the side dishes. So I would make, like, I mean, and we would eat, it wasn't anything like special, but I would make, our canned veggies. I would make like the rice aroni. And I remember being like scared to dump the water in there because it'll like sear and kind of, like I've had like a lot of practice with side dishes. And so it was actually, and I've also too, I've worked in the food industry on and off since I was about 16. And it was always one of my favorite things to do. I wasn't in the kitchen, but I do remember a time when I worked at KFC when I was about 16, and I was trying to get one of the cooks to kind of show me how they did things. So it's funny how it comes back full circle, because I'm like, you know what? I probably low key have always kind of had the curiosity of cooking, but it wasn't until that prep cook opportunity that I really was like, oh man, I really like took off with it. So I just started
Yeah.
with learning things from the kitchen. And the good thing too is, so during the pandemic in May 2020, so not only did I go vegetarian, but I also wanted to cook more at home, and I wanted to teach myself more, and kind of incorporated some things that I learned from work, and I started to do it at home. So like I learned how to cook more as a vegetarian and vegan. So it went hand in hand together. So I think
Wow.
that's why it grew so much, because it was like I like to learn new things. And of course, when you learn something new, it's exciting. So I think that's what really helped it take off, because it kind of came together, and then it just really took off together.
Well, when I saw your food, I even said to you, and the very first time I saw it, I said to you, your food looks great. You've had me thinking about going,
Thank you.
vegan. But not only that, I watched a couple more of your show videos, and I thought, oh my God, I'm really considering going vegan. And not only that, you just enjoy what you do, and it looks good. It looks so good. It looks like I could eat that every day and not miss a beat. Not miss a beat, right? So in terms of preparing the food, You make it look easy. It looks tasty. And I just love the whole ambiance. And I said to you that I think maybe the second time I saw something or the third time, I said to you, you need to have a restaurant somewhere because your food is like, yeah, that good. And I haven't even
Oh, I
tasted it
wish.
yet. Now, if I haven't even tasted your food yet, and I'm saying that, that's how good it looks.
That's a good
Because
thing.
for me, it's all about the presentation, right? So I'm getting
Right.
into my salads and all that stuff, but I like color in my food. So all my salads, people are like, "Oh my God, that looks so good." I like colors. That's the first thing because I think I eat with my eyes before I eat with my mouth and then in my stomach. So for me, I gotta have some variety and I've got to have some
Mhm.
color. Definitely color. But your food looks so good. I'm like, I might even have to try veganism. I just might have to try just because it just looks so good. So
Right. Yeah. People definitely eat with their eyes, and it's good that so the color thing, that's actually like a culinary technique. You add garnish
mm,
for color, make it vibrant, and you want to make
mm,
it. That's how you make it more attractive. So a lot of times, like when I do some of the dishes I do, I try to add like a piece of cilantro, or I try to add like parsley or
yeah,
something like that. A little bit of green, or like just things to make it look better. And really honestly, it's all in the plating, because I see food that I'm like, I'm sure it was good, but the way the picture was taken, the plating isn't
didn't look,
really there. But I'm sure it was tasty, but it's just the appearance.
wasn't
It's all
appealing.
in the plating. Yeah, it's really all in the plating.
Yeah, well, not only that, I think it is in the plating. It's all in the presentation for me.
Yep.
Because I've gone to places where the food may have been good, but it just didn't look good, right?
It's like they just put
So
it on the plate.
yeah, I think presentation is everything. And so for me, I make a big deal with my meals. And that's how I was able to make my transition from what I used to do to what
Mhm.
I do now, because I make it a big deal. I light my candles, put my music on, I set it on the plate really nicely. I clean the edges so it's just, there's no food, on the edges and
Yep.
stuff. And I set my
Yeah.
knife and fork and my napkins and I make it a deal. And for me, when I treat it like that as an event, I just tend to enjoy my food better because I'm connecting mentally with how good it looks, with how healthy it is, and
Hmm.
how tasty it is. And all of that
Right.
comes together. So who wants to go back to the other stuff where you're getting fast food in a bag or in a styrofoam
Right. Yep.
container or a plastic bowl? I mean,
It makes you want to eat at home.
exactly.
Like
Exactly.
now, I mean, I still go out to restaurants. One of my favorite taco places has these like mixed gogi tacos that I love.
Ooh, what are
But
those?
they're like so it's like a bulgogi taco basically. So you know how they have like the Korean bulgogi, but
Yeah.
they put it in a taco, and they put like these diced cucumbers, a couple of
Ooh.
raw jalapenos on there, and a sriracha sauce, and it is so good. It's like salty, it's a little bit of spicy. It's just
Mm.
bomb. But I can't make that at home, so I'd still go there and get it. But for the most part, yeah, like I barely want to eat out because I cook such good food at home. I make almost everything from scratch, so it's healthier for me anyway. And the way that I prepare it, it just makes me. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather, because a lot of times I find myself going out and I'm like, I could have just did this at home, so much better, you
Wow.
know.
So let me ask you about that because, if we're encouraging people to actually start their own cooking and doing it
Mm.
from scratch, um, let's talk realistic times frames in terms of people are always rushing. And the reason fast food became so popular is because it's fast, it's quick, it's easy.
Yeah.
You don't have to prepare anything. You just buy it, eat it, and throw out the container, right? So in terms of encouraging people to kind of think differently about food, let's talk about preparation of food and what's realistic about how long is it going to take you to prepare a decent meal versus getting in your car, driving to the fast food place and picking something up. I mean, what's the draw? How will we encourage people to do the cooking?
I would
Why even
say,
bother?
so it is, you know what? One thing, if you do want a better, healthy lifestyle, you do have to be willing to cook. I will
Okay.
say that being
Okay.
vegan is a little inconvenient. I'm sorry to be like the bearer of bad news for that, but yeah, you do have to be willing to cook. It'll be really hard if you're not.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it can be fun. But I would say, I mean, I had to kind of get my meals down to like 30 minutes because it was kind of taking a little too long because I was doing everything like literally from scratch. Like, I'm interested in culinary, so I would like dice my, onions. I'd slice, I'm dicing and slicing everything. Like I'm basically doing everything except for making my own pasta from scratch at this point.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
there's so many things that you can do to shortcut that. Like if you're really pressed for time, you could, and you have the budget for it, you can buy pre-diced onions and pre-sliced veggies. You can get a food processor to process the stuff you want to
Okay.
chop. I just bought one of the, it's like a container, but it has like a top to it, and you can
Mhm.
kind of put your onion there or anything, and you can kind of smash it down, and it dices it for you,
Oh,
like within a
so
matter of seconds.
so let me ask you this then. So in terms of equipment then, what would you recommend for somebody who wants to start doing vegetarian or veganism, vegan cooking? What
Mhm.
kinds of, you just mentioned food processor, but what other things would a person have to have in a really well-equipped kitchen in order to begin doing their own thing? What would you suggest?
Oh man, this is a good question because I love kitchen tools. uh,
I'm because
okay,
I'm ready to do this, right? So I'm asking all the
right.
questions right now.
Okay, so for sure the tool that I just mentioned that slices your veggies for you, because they have different tops on it where you can grade things on it, you can slice, you can dice, pretty much everything. And
Wow.
I just bought it, and I don't know what took me so long to get one. And then I have a salad spinner.
Ooh.
100%, I recommend a salad spinner because your greens are going to last longer, if they're dry. So definitely a salad spinner. Um, and I have one that actually is a salad spinner. Then you can kind of take it out, dump it in a bowl, and you can actually put that bowl in the refrigerator. So it kind of doubles
Ooh.
as a storage container too. Definitely need a blender. I 100% recommend a food processor. I have a Black and Decker. I think I bought it for like $20 at Walmart or something like that. They're not expensive. And if you're a coffee drinker, I recommend a milk frother. It's like a
Oh,
milk steamer slash frother.
yeah. So
So I
what kind of
recommend that.
milk do you put it, can you put in there? If you're making a cappuccino or something?
Yeah, like I used, like before I used to just kind of put cold creamer into my coffee, mix it up and like reheat it type of thing. But with
Yeah.
the milk steamer, they have these little different tops. So like if you want to froth your milk, there's like a piece in there that you put in there that'll froth it. If you don't, you can switch it
Um,
out. And so
uh-huh.
I put the Starbucks non-dairy caramel macchiato creamer in there, just a little bit, and then I
Oh.
put a little bit of like kind of like half creamer, half oat milk. Put it in the
Mm-hmm.
steamer, press the button. It takes maybe like a few minutes, and it actually heats the milk for you, and it froths it at the same time. And oat milk is
Ooh.
actually a really good milk to froth. So it's already
Wow.
heated. You make your coffee and you just dump it in there, and it's good. You don't even need sugar in there because the creamer is already. Uh, it's really. It kind of tastes more concentrated than a dairy creamer, so that's why I like to cut it with the oat milk. And yeah, it's perfect. I mean, for me, it depends on how you like, your sweet tooth and everything. But
So here's what I'm going to ask you to do, because I know that people are listening to this and going to want to know all these different pieces of equipment that you're talking about that they may need to
mhm,
invest in. And I know that I'm curious to know. So I'm going to ask you to kind of send me a list of things so that I can actually include it in the credits, so that for the next show that people at least will have that information.
for
Um,
sure.
Not sure that we're going to be using names of companies, but per se, unless of course they endorse us. But we
Right.
would like to kind of know what kinds of equipment that you use. So the food processor, definitely, the milk steamer
Blender.
or the milk frother, yeah, number two, and then the slicer for the vegetables. That sounds intriguing to me because I usually cut up all my vegetables by hand, and I'm kind of getting tired of that. So I think I would
Right.
need some help. So the slicer, the dicer, the whatever that is, I'm all over that. Definitely all over that. So if you could just kind of give me, and I think you and I need to talk offline, because with your cooking, I think it would be great to have, we'll talk offline. We'll talk
Okay.
offline.
And I would
We'll
I would
definitely
also
talk offline.
say, oh, I was gonna say also too, I just bought a garlic press, so I don't have to mince my garlic anymore. So that's pretty. It's kind of a pain to clean, but I like it so far, honestly, because you
Yes.
literally just press it and it's done. I do have like a lemon lime squeezer too,
Uh-huh.
because I make and I have a juicer, but it's just I don't want to, sometimes you just need like to juice like two lemons, so I don't want to use a whole juicer for that.
Ah, gotcha.
But
Just to do
but I
two.
make but I started making like a lemon vinaigrette, so I started to use that hand juicer to kind of juice the lemons just to make a quick, salad dressing for my salad. So stuff
Gotcha.
like that. I mean, they're not super necessary, but they're just nice. They're just nice to have, to be honest.
So what about do you use the rind of fruit like the limes, to make anything or to use the flavoring in anything or the lemon rind or anything like do you do gratoring or anything like that?
I'm not super crazy about zesting, to be honest.
Gotcha.
To me, I think my taste buds are not really. So I honestly don't do anything with the
Okay.
rinds, to be
Okay,
honest.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. All right. So can you tell us about maybe what's your favorite thing to prepare, or do you have something simple that you could talk to us about what you would make for a quick meal if somebody came over and you just had everything in the fridge or had everything in the house that you could just make something? Can you tell us about maybe a possible recipe that you've done recently that you may want to share with us?
It's such a hard question. Every time someone asks me that, I'm like, I don't even know what my favorite is because I'll
Because you
literally
make
just get
everything
an
good.
idea. Honestly, I'm like everything I cook is so good. It's so good that I'm like everything is my favorite. Well, one thing I do, like so I'll one thing that I'd like to do, I'll have to tell you two, because one thing is like a
Okay.
breakfast. So I'll do
Okay.
these sweet potato waffles, and I got the recipe. Her blog is called Sweet Potato, so I just have to shout her out because that's like one of my favorite recipes. So, and it's not really a lot of sweet potato in it. It's like 1/3 a cup of sweet potato in it, but they're so good.
Mm.
So I'll make that, and I'll have that with like cream of wheat. I'll make tofu
Mm.
scramble. Then I'll have it with some like Beyond sausage, and then if I have it, I used to make mushroom bacon, but now I buy the mushroom bacon already prepared because after the first two packs that I ordered from this company called Shrew Macon, I'm sold. So yeah, I'll have it with some like mushroom bacon
Huh.
if I have that available, and it's so good and it's
Wait.
easy.
Hold up. So mushrooms that taste like bacon, where the heck do you find that?
So if you want, okay, well, so the company that I mentioned, Shrew Macon, it's the you can go to meet the mushroom. I think it's meetthemushroom.com and order it. But if you want to make it, you just need to buy the king oyster mushrooms,
Yeah.
and um and usually you can find them at an Asian market. So you have like a 99 Ranch or an H Mart where you are. I'm not sure what if
I have an
that's like
Asian
the regional
market
code.
I have a big Asian market here in Tennessee.
Okay. Oh yeah, so they should be there, and they basically they look a little funny looking. You can ask someone, and they'll be able to tell you, but they're really thick mushrooms,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so you can take like a peeler. That's another thing I would say to get like a
Oh, I
peeler
have one of those. Yeah.
or like a mandolin. So you can take
Mm-hmm.
like a mandolin and kind of run it through and create these thin slices of mushrooms, and then
Ooh.
you just marinate it, and I'm not sure how to. I think it's maple syrup, liquid smoke, like salt, pepper, paprika, and just like different seasonings, and probably some soy sauce. Mix that
Wow.
together and marinate it, and then you can either air fry it, you can cook it on the stove and make it nice and
Ooh.
crispy. And it really does taste. It tastes like similar to bacon, and
Wow.
it's really good.
That's the one thing I've missed because I've stopped eating pork years ago. Because
Oh, mhm.
for strictly for religious reasons, but also because it's not really a clean animal. Because they eat everything you feed it, and
Oh
if an
yeah.
animal can eat everything you give it, that ain't a clean animal, right? So we don't eat pork, but the one thing I did used to miss was bacon, and I would do an egg sandwich and put bacon on it, but I haven't done that in many many years. But I think I would probably miss the taste. I think I would enjoy having a taste like bacon that's not bacon. I think I would pretty
Mhm.
much enjoy that.
Order the shrew bacon, because
Yeah.
I use it was okay making it myself, but this is their business. This is what they do. So it's like
Mhm.
the marinade is so good, and you could just pop it in the air fryer, which is another piece of
Oh
equipment
wow.
that I recommend.
I
And
have one of those.
honestly, there were pieces like once it's really nice and crispy, it reminded me of bacon. Like I almost got scared. I was like, okay, this is mushroom, right? Like So no, that 100% recommend that product.
I'm all over that. All right. So we are so intrigued with your story, and I'm so glad that you accepted my invitation to come on the show today. Um, I think you've got a lot of people thinking about, I need to try this, or I need to change my whole lifestyle, because it not only is it tasty, it looks good, it's healthy, it's better for you, you feel better.
Mhm.
Why not? Right?
And
Why
it's not
not?
and it's not as like it seems hard, but it's not as hard as you may think. Because honestly, like I had a friend tell me, like, I can't believe you of all people are vegan, and I even myself, I said I don't think I could ever go vegan, and a lot of people say that, but once you do it, once you get over the learning curve of just learning
Uh-huh.
the ingredients of not to consume, learning what
Yeah.
to substitute, learning how to recreate those flavors and those dishes that you used to love, it is
Yeah.
it is really it is a lot easier than you think.
I can't wait to try. I really can't wait to try. And I'm so glad I found you, because I'm going to be picking your brain, buddy. I really am, because I'm going to be learning and
Oh, I don't
asking, well,
mind.
how do you create that taste, or how do you recreate that taste, and just kind of getting some information from you, because I'm really, the more I talk to you and the more I watch your stuff, the more I'm kind of, yeah, I think I need to do this. I think I need to do
Yeah, I
this.
would say, you know what, and to not put pressure on yourself, I would just like I went, vegetarian for 30 days. I knew I wanted to possibly do more than that, but I didn't want to
Uh-huh.
put that extra pressure on myself. I
Uh-huh.
would just say do it for 30 days, try it for 2 weeks and see how you feel.
And see how it is.
Hmm.
So I would need to kind of get a baseline of what is not on the vegan table. What I'd need to kind of know, because there's certain things that you might, like I might make mistakes like you did, in terms of, I don't think there's any meat product in there, but there's also the dairy factor that I have to worry, anything that's animal based. So I have to kind of think, when you don't really think about those things until you have to
Right.
think about those things, right? What has meat in it? What has dairy in it? What is an animal product? Does this thing have animal products in it, or whatever? So once I get that baseline, I think it would be easy to kind of just get the products and get the things that I need and have those in the house, so that I
Right.
can just go from there. And I think it would be an easy transition to do at least a 30-day challenge. And I might have to put that out there for the group to see who would like to kind of go along on that challenge with me, and see
Oh,
who
that's a good
bites.
idea. Hmm.
See who bites, right?
Yeah.
Let's all do it for 30 days. That doesn't mean we have to do it, permanently, but let's try it for 30 days and see how much better we feel. But I also think it would be so beneficial for us diabetics to eat healthier, eat more plant, fruit, and vegetables than we do with all the meat clogging up our systems and all the other stuff. And
Right.
maybe with some of the other allergies that we have, like the dry skin. I know for a diabetic, dry, flaky skin is one of the side things for diabetes. It's
Oh,
all the sugar in the
right.
system. And then also a lot of sugar in the system causes a lot of yeast, which is not good for us, because that's where bacteria thrives, right? So yeast infections can be something pretty common for a diabetic who's got high sugar levels, consistent high sugar levels.
Okay.
So just kind of knowing some of those things, I think if we kind of took out the weed and took out some of the things that, we typically eat that we don't think are bad, we just may start to feel better and also control some of those diabetic side issues, right? So it might be worth it just to try it, just to see whether or not there's a correlation between what we're eating now to, if we don't eat those things anymore, how much
Right.
better we could feel, or how much healthier we could be. I think it's worth a shot to try, at least for 30 days. And then if it doesn't work for you, then who says you have to stay? You can go back to what you used to do,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, and
Exactly right.
it's not like there's a lot of flexitarians out there. There's people who eat, mostly plant-based, and they consume, very little meat. So there's
Huh,
no perfect way to be vegetarian, vegan, or to have a healthy diet. You just need to figure out what works for you. And a lot of people too,
exactly.
they'll do like a fast. So you know how people do like juice cleanses and everything. Some people
Yeah,
they'll eat whatever however they eat, but then they'll go vegan for a few months, or they'll or some vegans will do a raw vegan diet as a cleanse. So yeah, it's you just got to figure out what works for you. I will
okay.
say that if you feel like you have a hard time quitting cheese, cheese is meant to be addicting on purpose. They have queso morphins in it
Uh,
that
you
that
said that.
literally makes it addicting.
Yeah, you
So if
said
you
that.
feel like you can't get rid of cheese, I mean, there is, a scientific reason why you can't do that. And I would just say, just to know that it's supposed to be addicting. And as soon as you stop eating it, the less you're going to feel addicted to it. So I
Gotcha.
honestly don't even like, I eat cheese substitutes, but I don't even feel the need to have cheese on things anymore.
Okay. Okay. So, any last things that you would like to tell people that are listening today about going vegan, or what would help them to to kind of make that switch or to make that transition?
Yes, I would say the main thing is, you know, it's good to go into it thinking about, wanting to be healthier,
Yep.
but what helps it stick more is if you have more of a deeper reason why you want to do it. So again, I went vegetarian for my health, and then learning about the animals is what
Hmm.
actually compelled me to go not only go vegan, but stay vegan because I feel like it's something beyond myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's my personal way to kind of make an impact. So I think if you think about it more of just a diet and start thinking more about it as a lifestyle and just
Hmm.
kind of beyond the health, like the health is a good bonus, but also I feel like in order for it to stick, it does need to be just a little deeper than health
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I know that I'm going to have you on again because this is a very intriguing topic for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of people listening have been thinking about it or may have been thinking about it and now maybe start to think about it. But I'd like to have you on again because I think there's more to discuss and more to find out about this whole new lifestyle of veganism and what it takes to be a vegan, and preparing some foods, and maybe even go through a process that you probably go through with preparing something. I think people would be really interested in kind of seeing that and hearing about it. So on my live, maybe we could do that, a demonstration, but on the podcast, I know that we can actually talk more about being veganism, being a vegan and going into veganism. So I would love to have you back. Thank you for coming by today. Very, very interesting topic, very interesting lifestyle change, and your journey is amazing. Amazing. Just
Thank you
from
so much.
where you started to where you are now, I see you being another Tabitha Brown. I really do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I do. Because I mean, to kind of sway me into thinking about going vegan when I was like, yeah, veganism, I like my cheese and I like my meat too much. No. But yeah, thinking
it's
about it
crazy.
seriously.
It's crazy you say that because I know I got into wanting to be vegan by watching other people's food, but I didn't even
Yep.
think about what I didn't even think about me posting my food. Like my intention wasn't to necessarily, do that. So it's interesting hearing you say that because I'm like, man, that's exactly how I got into veganism by watching someone else's food.
There you
And
go.
then so it feels good knowing that, that people are out there thinking about it just because they saw
Yeah.
my food. Like
Yep.
even my mom was like, "Oh, I could go vegan," and I would have never thought that she would
That
be
she would
open
do
to
that.
that. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And she's
Yeah.
tasted a few of my things. I made some fried mushrooms, so like a fried chicken substitute, and she
Uh-huh.
was like, "Wow, it tastes like chicken." I'm like, "Yeah, see, like
Wow.
there's, you know." So we'll have to talk about that next time for sure. I definitely
Yeah.
need to be
So the
back
next time you come
because
on, so just get ready. We are going to have you back. So I
uh,
definitely think this is a very, very interesting topic that a lot of people would have an interest in. And I personally have an interest in. So I'm going to have you back because it's my show. So I'm going to have you back. So definitely going to have you back. Thank you for coming by today, Trey. So everyone, this was Trey Rentie today, talking about how he transitioned from regular food to vegetarianism and then becoming a vegan, and has not looked back. So let's talk about that some more next time, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks. Have a good
thank
day.
you so much.